you do if you're a person who hasn't really found a thing that you're passionate about? Anything that captures your interests, that makes you take a second look, there's something to it, give it a try. And then the homework that you have to do is Hi, I'm Angela. I am a transplant from New York City. I moved to Taipei almost 5 years ago, and right now I host tea tasting sessions in Dongmen area. I just passed my first year anniversary, and yeah, this is my main passion project. I absolutely love food, so I am also training to be a baker, and I split my time between baking as well as learning and hosting tea. I had gotten interested in tea around 2018, and in New York City I used to join a few local tea clubs where I was meeting 2 to 3 times a week, and that's how I learned tea. And I love the experience. I love socializing, I loved geeking out and learning new facts, and also just the physical experience of trying tea. One thing that one of my friends mentioned to me pretty early on is tea is a reflection of the state of mind of the person preparing it for you. So what feelings and what emotions and what thoughts you have can carry over into your brewing, because it might distract you, or you might be very focused and then it produces a very luxurious brew. And so it really unlocked a part of me that I never really knew I was craving, which is to have a slowed down moment. I'm from New York City, so everything's super fast paced and all about time efficiency. So yeah, like tea was my gateway to having a more natural and into lifestyle. Then it became a way for me to make friends. There's so many different ways that tea has bridged me. Like moving abroad, I have no friends. I've made so many friends just because I like tea and happened to meet people who also did. And the crazy thing is, this works regardless of language ability. I spoke no Chinese moving here. People still invited me, and we got to bond over this drink, even if it was just, playing charades and pantomiming. And I feel like it is such a wonderful way to bridge different cultures. And it doesn't have to be, super technical. I've had guests here who literally come in with no knowledge of tea and can't even distinguish between like green or red tea. Because it's not about how much you know, it's about how willing you are to share and to connect to another person and to hear what they think. That being said, this is what I'm hoping to do with this type of experience is, for people who are interested in tea, to learn about tea, I'm here, I'm a resource with, whatever I can help with. So when I moved to Taiwan, I was a little disappointed because I didn't really find that type of experience in tea. Like, there is so much culture and so much history, but there's also a formality to tea in Taipei, especially for a foreigner who didn't speak the language and didn't have any local friends to introduce them. So that motivated me to start my own tea tastings where I could hopefully meet other English-speaking tea drinkers and create my own vibe and atmosphere just to help fill in that gap. So I'll break it down into 3 different categories: emotional, financial, and just overall mental health energy. Emotional is when you really, really love something and you're interested in, you can throw yourself like 100%, and it can exhaust you if you don't know how to manage your energy. So for me, I had to learn what were my limits. I couldn't spend all my time doing this because I'm not making that much money out of it. And I also wanted to make sure I am being true to myself, why I wanted to host these types of events, because at the end of the day, I'm speaking to people like me. and I don't want to push myself in a direction where it feels inauthentic and it no longer fulfills my needs, because this is what energizes me and charges me and is part of my creative process. Regarding financial, I make sure that I'm at the very least breaking even doing this type of event. I've had friends who also host similar events abroad in different countries, and a lot of them say, well, Angela, if you really, really love doing this and it's your passion and it's your hobby, you should host it anyway, regardless. And I said, yes, that is the case if I'm hosting out of my own home, but I'm actually making the effort to expand it into an outside setting where I do have to pay some rental fees. And I'm also making the food, so it's not just the tea. Like, the tea procurement costs are actually quite high. For people who are not familiar with tea, they can be as expensive and more expensive than alcohol. So I have to be mindful of my budget. Part of what I like to do is explore new teas that are coming out. And so with the way that I structure my programs, I buy tea whenever I have the extra income for it, and then I love sharing it with my themed sessions. So I have my teas priced in different ways, and this is one of the things that I learned after conducting these sessions through time. Again, being mindful of my resources. So if I'm doing a super discounted event, I may not be using my top shelf premium teas because it just doesn't make financial sense. I will have a deficit. At the same time, I am really picky with my food, so I will not serve tea that is subpar or I don't think is good for people to consume. So it's a really fine balance. Really checking in with myself and making sure that this is the direction that I want to keep going in. I think most people are familiar with the concept of sunk costs fallacy, and I don't want to be in a position where I continue to do this because I already started and invested so much time and effort. I want to make sure it still serves me. So yeah, 1 year in, I'm still feeling great. I've been expanding my programs, doing new styles of tasting. Like recently I did an afternoon tea service, which is more Western style, and I still love it. What do you do if you're a person who hasn't really found what you're passionate about or a thing that you're passionate about? And if that's your inclination, that you do want to find something, just keep trying. Anything that captures your interests, that makes you take a second look, I think there's something to it that appeals to you. So give it a try, and then the homework that you have to do is really introspect and think about what is it about this activity or this pursuit that made me enjoy it or that made me think about it. Because sometimes it's not very obvious, sort of like I really liked tea, but it wasn't just because of the drink, it was because I got to meet people. So it was actually more about the socialization aspect and the ability to host. So yeah, like, I think don't hold yourself back. Be smart about it too. If it's something that is quite costly of a pursuit, maybe you want to look for events that are free or part of a community group so you don't have too much upfront investment. And then it's a little less wasteful too. For people who have already found something that you liked, what do you do next? I don't think for every person with a hobby they love, they have to do this, where they end up, creating essentially a club, or the next level would be even operating a business. Because we don't have to always monetize the things that we love. Think about what your end goal is and really think about how it fits in with your life. And by fitting in with your life, I mean your schedule, your commitments. How do you shape it in a way that it works for the way that your life is currently set up? Or if you don't actually have the time for it, is it something that you enjoy enough to make more time with? Like my instance is I actually sacrifice parts of my weekends now because I'm doing prep for this event. But for me, that's more meaningful than going out for dinner or, going out for a weekend event. Always question yourself and make sure your guiding light is in sight, and you will find so much opportunity for growth. And if you come to a point where you realize this doesn't actually bring me joy anymore, or this is actually giving me more stress than not, you can take a break. I would say I've taken a few breaks from hosting tea events before when I felt a little demotivated. I wasn't really getting the feedback that I was looking for, and you need that time to reset and recalibrate. And so after I did my little resting period, I thought, okay, what can I change and do differently? How do I approach this in a way that it doesn't drain my energy? And move on from there.